on Death Aura. Spawning in the bottom right-hand corner is our blue Zerg player playing for Cosmos Esports. Make some noise for SortOf.
Was on the wrong person. I thought, why did you just go to Cass as your... Anyway, the red Terran player right here fighting for Team Stockholm. He is none other than, well, the ever so lovely, ever always around Cass. Right here. The Ukrainian Terran player, of course. I forget to mention.
Playing for Starcom Gaming, right?
Stockholm, yes. Did I not say this?
If you did, my brain didn't process it.
Well, if I didn't, my brain didn't process it. So, one of our brains. Maybe a little bit of both. Maybe a little bit of both. Maybe I just said stars and gamings. That happens sometimes.
No worries, no worries. Of course, yeah, we were right in the middle of talking about a lot of different situations here for our Group D, and I think probably the piece that is still important to remember is that our two contestants in this particular game are officially out of the running. Both SortOf and Koss have been eliminated from this group, or excuse me, eliminated from advancing out of this group, because obviously they're right here. They're not eliminated yet. They're still playing. A reminder, because some people might still be wondering, like, well, hey, why play? Why should they play this out? It doesn't matter, right, Rushy? Wrong. We've got money on the line for every single one game. So whoever ends up winning this series will not advance forward, but will have a little extra money in their pocket, and that's pretty good, all things considered, Kozan.
Yeah, for sure. And already off to a okay start here for both these players. I mean, nothing too crazy going on. Both of them just aiming for that standard play. 1-1-1 now from Cars coming out, and SortOf also just you know what, regular macro Zerg right there, run of the mill kind of type of thing right now.
So it'll be interesting to see what kind of engagements we get in this particular series. Both Koss and SortOf have rather unique play styles. We were kind of talking about this a little bit before everything got booted up, but you seem to think that SortOf is a bit of a defensive type player.
Yeah, that's what I'm most familiar with for him. I know that he loves his spellcasters. He loves to turtle up a lot and do that type of stuff. I know in particular his EVP, he's a big fan of that type of playstyle. I don't know if it changed much with now, of course, all the changes to the air army of the Protoss. It seems to be, you know what, slowly turning into the favor for the Protoss in that late game, but sort of one of these players, like, I have seen him in some matchups where he's just sitting backwards and there's an opponent just ramming his face again and again into sort of his just overall defensive playstyle, and it became very disturbing to watch. Actually, I believe it was a Korean Zerg which I watched this with. Oh my dear Lord, Rushy, I was at wit's end at the like, he was just on like 4 bases. Right, the Korean Zerg, he had like 7, 8 bases, he had everything, and he just kept making more and more Mutalisks, and SortOf was just sitting there chilling with his infestors. Anytime he got anywhere close to him, fungal growth, spore crawlers came in, using those parasitic bombs continuously. Absolute magnificent micro on this man, very, very stellar, using those late game units. He is, he's definitely one hell of a pro to look for if that's your type of play.
Oh, I definitely enjoy seeing these games go into the later portions, because it is always fun to see how different people will handle using big armies with lots of spellcasters, lots of various components all interweaving. But, you know, I will admit, like, my computer won't do a great job of holding down all of the frames for all of those units, so I won't be offended if these players take it to the mid-game and just do something fun, just to make it a fun viewing experience for everyone. And it looks like Koss is trying to stay really aggressive here. He is going to get in with a ton of these Hellions. Now, there are a few Banelings already produced, but they're still rather slow, and they're going to immediately get picked off, and now suddenly Queens are going to have to be brought into the fray, but the Queens are all on the wrong side. All of these Hellions are going to be able to wiggle on through. They're still looking for their primary targets, and they are going to finally find those drones. I think all things considered, SortOf did a pretty decent job. He only lost 5 drones. Kos probably was hoping to get more, but I think all things considered, SortOf did a nice job defending.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I think he could have done, you know what, I hate to nitpick here, but you know what, honestly, I think it's worth mentioning. He had those Zerglings in position, but the Queens, they were not there for the Hellions. They were all chasing off one single Liberator. Now, he did kill the Liberator, sure, but ultimately, you need to have some Queens ready to poke away at those Hellions, right? The Lynx, they are mostly there to just hold the Hellions in place, and then you use the Queens to really deliver a decisive blow to those Hellions, and they just weren't there. Maybe because he just doesn't quite have his Overlords in front. He does have a lot of creep spread, though, so that's working out in his favor, but normally you want to have a couple of those Overlords further out on the map, looking out at where those Hellions are coming in from, so you can pre-position those Queens. But nonetheless, I mean, 5 workers there, only going down, that is impressive, especially considering that was 8 Hellions with a Liberator as well at the same time.
So I think it's important to note that this is in fact going to be bio play. It is Marines and tanks. We're going to have medevacs added into the mix. I believe that is now just starting to punch out onto the map. And with a large Ling Bane army composition right now, I mean, this is probably an okay place for SortOf to play from. He's really missing the centrifugal hooks on those Banelings, so those Banelings are not going to be able to engage very well off creep. Oh, no. And right now, they are completely out of position. I think those Marines could have been microed well enough that they could have picked off a lot of those, but instead, both sides are going to play it safe, running everything backwards a little bit. We are going to see Hydraling Bane. What, Kozan, what year is it? Is it 2018 all over again?
This might be getting ready to set up for those lurkers, man. It could happen for sure. I mean, I told you, SortOf loves to play defensively. I wouldn't be surprised seeing him going into this type of playstyle. The Banelings now, they do have speed. Needs to watch out for those Queens. A good transfuse there. It will keep stuff alive for now. Zerglings coming in from the backside. That's a very good move right now. Getting right on top of those tanks. And the tank's a little bit preoccupied shooting his Zerglings there instead of the Banelings. Has to pick up the Marines. And what did he really lose there? Not much, did he? Not even a single Queen. A little bit of creep spread. And that's it. SortOf is going to reacquire that, though, very quickly. Yeah, I'm impressed so far by SortOf.
Yeah, SortOf playing very confidently as it sits right now and making the most of bringing those Queens forward. I think tanks were doing a nice job of aggroing on top of those. And if you know anything about tanks versus Queens, is Queens fare really, really well. So if you can get those tanks to sit on top of your Queens and put pressure there, that means you've got Banelings that aren't being aggressed upon. You've got Zerglings that are going to survive longer. You're just going to make more out of the army that you have, and it is going to be this Hydraling Bane style composition, at least for the near future. 5th base going down here, of course, SortOf already sitting on a full 4-base economy. Haven't seen a Lurker Den just yet, but it's Muscular Augments coming out for SortOf as well. I think just going to continue to commit into protecting what he has, and oh my gosh, that's a lot of Marines.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to be seeing the Lurkers here anymore. That Infestation Pit already on the way. Normally, you would start up the Lurker Den at the same time if that's what you're going for. Instead, the Infestation Pit, you know what? Very strong unit as well, of course, especially if you're mostly fighting against those Marines. Just getting yourself to the Hive Tech, whether it be for Ultralisk or for Fungal Growth. Both of those can be absolutely fantastic. Or even Vipers, right? Getting Vipers against a tank-orientated army like this, fantastic. Sign me up any day.
Well, this is kind of getting to be an interesting engagement here. SortOf was going to try and hit that 3rd base, but decided with the big push coming out in the center of the map that he might try and wrap around once again. But Kos more on top of it this time, stretches out half of his army to aggress on the top side. But I think this is now going to have pulled him far enough apart that he's not in the right places at the right time. Right now, Kos is SimCity doing a pretty decent job of holding this all back, and he is going to pull a good chunk of the Marines, and the Banelings are pretty much all picked off, so most of that is going to get picked away at here. Tanks are going to get covered by the Hydras on the south side, but for the most part, SortOf has traded really poorly on this. He's got 29 more Banelings on the way, but he needs those about 5 seconds ago. Yeah,
for sure. I mean, that was a very awkward moment for SortOf that. Definitely feeling like he wasn't quite sure what to do in that moment in time. Maybe miscontrolling a little bit in the middle there. We saw a couple of times on the minimap the army on the right side was sort of trying to commit on those siege tanks and then deciding, you know what, never mind. Taking a lot of shells to the face. And that's never what you want to do against those siege tanks. If you're getting close to siege tanks, either you back up and never enter that area again, or you just fully commit and you go for it. Instead, what we saw sort of multiple times ducking in and out of that area. Now, we don't have any creep spread here anymore. That's a lot of banelings, but I mean, that's a lot more Marines available right now. The Hydra is doing an all right job, but we might need a little bit more here for sort of, can he scramble up enough of a reinforcements here? I'm not quite sure. Cass might just be doing it.
I think Cass is doing it here. 172 to 129 is the supply advantage for our Terran player. I was super hopeful. I mean, SortOf had a huge clump of banelings on the center of the map and was going to be able to engage on top of this big chunk of the army. But I think maybe a little bit of misrouting of the AI of those banelings, I think took it towards a smaller clump. And once they were spotted, I mean, easily split up and dealt with. Yeah. So sort of dealing with a little bit of a misengagement here. I think it is going to cost him game number 1. Because I mean, Koss is already maxed out. He's got a pretty decent transition going here. And that transition is just more of what he was using. He's going to get those tanks up to the high ground in that main base, and I think that Koss is just going to slowly push this away and walk away with a game 1 victory.
Yeah, it's starting to look like that more and more likely. Yeah. Definitely the case. I mean, we're going to need to see massive baneling connections here if we want to have this work out into SortOf's favor. One good thing here, the positive, of course, is that a large portion of Cass's army not with the rest of this portion, right? So, I mean, overall army supply can be rather equal on this side of the map right now. Loses his macro hatchery, but the banelings, oh, come on, make some connections. Oh, a lot of them just not all together here, all spread out because of that ramp area. So rolling in one by one instead of as one big group and not quite being able to get this as efficiently as he wants to. And as that's happening, the second push on the left side, Rushy, this is like watching an arm wrestling match at this point with, you know what, a 22-year-old man and a 6-year-old little girl at this point in time with how this is looking.
I mean, talk about a mental image right there. Yeah, but I get what you're saying. There's just not a lot to deal with all of this. Koss is starting to split his opponent apart. There's tanks here on the left-hand side. These tanks, even though they don't have a whole lot of coverage, are still going to get a lot of damage done. It's 20 workers gone in that particular engagement between losing workers at this 5th base location, continuing to lose more as well. Finally, we'll get cleaned up, but at what cost? It's just going to come at so much loss without any ability for SortOf to push backwards against his opponents. So it's going to be more Marines. That +3 armor is going to finish up. That's going to give this army a lot more value to it. And with this little hit squad getting caught out here, I think this is just going to be the writing on the wall for them.
Yeah, I mean, the Hive Tech is about to finish up, but at this point in time, I'm wondering, maybe it would have just been better to, instead of going for the Hive Tech, go for the pathogen glands and stick to that instead. I mean, a couple of fungals on top of those Marines, imagine that. That would have just definitely done quite a blow and made it so much more possible for those banelings to get good connections. And again, I think a lot of it came down as well to when we saw the engagement at the first couple of moments, right? He spread out his army, SortOf did very nicely. I liked what he was doing with the army movements, rotating around the top side, coming in and perhaps looking for a surround or just to intercept reinforcements. But ultimately, as he was doing that, it seemed to me like he was kind of losing track of his overall game plan there. He wasn't quite sure what he was going to do anymore. On the right side, multiple times where he felt like, all right, these siege tanks, they must be unsieged right now, trying to get back in there, not quite unsieged, and just, you know what, trading so cost inefficiently that it becomes very, very difficult to manage at that point, right? Because that's kind of the thing with this this kind of matchup. If you lose that momentum very quickly, it can just all roll out of your court, and there's not much you can do anymore with somebody that just continuously keeps pushing. Especially if you're so far away from your next tech unlockment, right? You just don't, yeah, you don't have that much staying power anymore at that moment in time.
Well, we talked about that at the very, very beginning about how controlling the tempo is very, very important. Especially if you're a Zerg player, you want to be able to maintain the flow of how you inject and when you attack and when things go the direction they need to. And SortOf wasn't able to make that happen here in game number 1. Casa did a great job of holding that down. So we are going to jump into Eternal Empire for game number 2. The question comes down, can SortOf regain control of that tempo or that momentum in this series? And I think he's capable. Clearly he's capable. They're all very capable at this point, but it will be interesting to see if he can pull it off here in this particular game. So thank you everyone for letting me know that there's a frame rate drop on the game. That's just because there's a lot of units. Like when you're trying to render 1 million Zerglings versus 1 million Marines, it's just hard. And I have a nice computer, but you know, it's nothing like the rigs that they're using for the mainstream. So feel free, send me your $4,000, $5,000 donations to my PayPal, and I will absolutely make sure that this runs at a crystal clear 200 frames and 1080p 60. But I'm happy right now that we've got a pretty decent clear stream. So thanks so much, folks. I do appreciate the heads up. Rest assured that we are aware and doing the best that we can here. So we are going to get into game number 2. So the question comes down here, Kozan. What do you think? Do you think SortOf's going to be able to grab control back?
I think he has a good shot, right? I think he has a pretty good shot. That was just like little tiny micro mistakes, little tiny movement mistakes overall, which really threw the game a little bit here for him in the end. And honestly, I think he might be okay if he tries to just be a little bit more crisp with that one, right? Because he did lose control in those matches. He lost a lot of that creep spread, and that just makes things go from bad to worse, because not only is he then suddenly behind in the trading game, making it more difficult for the next fight that's coming up. Also, his creep spread just completely gone. So I mean, you're gonna take a worse fight at that moment in time as well. And Cass making full advantage off of that entire predicament that SortOf was finding himself in. And yeah, at that moment in time, you can just keep on sending those units across the map. Cass doing a wonderful job grabbing those expansions and gobbling up all the minerals that he needed to keep his upgrades going and keep the Marines in the high numbers. Somebody in chat also saying baneling landmines, of course, another way that, you know what, potentially one of those ways to make a potential comeback happen in these types of situations. But yeah, SortOf just not quite being able to get that sorted for himself here.
Well, why don't you go ahead and introduce our blue Zerg player in the bottom left hand?
All right, I shall. In the bottom left side, we have that blue Zerg, as Rushy mentioned. He is blue, and he is a Zerg after all. He is the one and only Cosmosian Esports star. He is SortOf from Cosmos Esports. That's why he's the Cosmonian Esporter.
And spawning in the top right, our red Terran player. Play for Starcom Gaming. Looking to win 2 more games if you want some extra money. Give it up for Kas. So it should be interesting to see how things are going to go. Now, this is... All right, so we haven't had any major Eternal Empire ZVTs. This is my hill to die on in this current map pool. I hate this map as a Zerg player. I have this banned every single time. Because...
Why?
Of the ability for the Terran to block your third if that's the direction that you want to choose to go. Very easy to send out an SCV to put a coverage on this particular base because it forces the Zerg player into a very awkward position. Either they're going to throw down their third base really, really late, have to pull a lot like what's happening right here. Like both of these queens have to come out and get this. Because the other option is to throw your third up here. And not only is it 1 million miles away, there is this empty space back and behind where you can park a Liberator, and it will hit this mineral line. And unless you have air units, there is nothing, not a thing that you can do. So you basically just lose access to your third base. So it's just one of those little things, like every map has little quirks to it, right? And I've put the score incorrectly. That's my apologies. Let me fix that. Koss is up 1-0. So I just think that it's interesting because, like I said, every map has its quirk a little bit. That's the one on this. So I actually personally have this one banned in my ladder pool. But the more you know with Rashi and Eternal Empire.
Rashi and his ladder experiences. That's, I think you're making some good points, honestly. You know what? Sending the queen over is one of these things that a lot of Zergs do already, right? So on a lot of the maps, you have your preferred third base, the one you would like to take more so. So I feel like somebody on the caliber of SortOf should already be feeling pretty comfortable with dealing with that harassment, right? In a way.
Yeah,
I think that's the fast. Yeah.
I like to think so. I mean, I had to think about that for a moment. It's just like, well, I mean, in the prime scenario, absolutely, but we see this happen a lot, even with the professionals. But I think we're getting a little interesting drop push coming here. It's going to be Hellbats and concussive shell marauders. I mean, this can hit really, really hard if there are roaches. But right now it's mostly Lings, Banes, and Queens. So we'll have to see if Koss can get on top of this the way he wants to. But he's going to have Hellbat, and SortOf is going to see all of this start coming up into play. And here come the Hellbats with those Marauders. And this is starting to get a little dicey here for SortOf. But some good Baneling connections. Going to get on top of a majority of those Hellbats. And that is going to knock that down. He's still able to clean up all of those Marines, but more Baneling's going to be able to get on top and actually still connect, even though the Hellbats were split apart. So this is a pretty decent hold by SortOf. Koss needed to get a lot more queen kills, and he only walked away with 2. So I think while he still got some damage done, it wasn't what he was looking for.
Yeah, I mean, I thought that for a moment he was trying to get the Banelings onto the Hellbats and the Marauders. I felt a little bit greedy. Perhaps he could have gotten a bit of a better connection onto the Hellbats overall. But still, I mean, in the end, he cleans it up, right? I suppose he did take quite a beating though on the overall resources lost tab, but he still stands. He's still here in this game looking okay. You know, 11 worker lead.
Yeah, Lairtech just about to finish up. Limiting the amount of worker kills has been really crucial here for SortOf. He is going to finally lose 6 before it's all said and done. His queen count is a little bit skewed as well, because I think he pulled most of his queens to help out with the defense. So I guess there is one tucked into the mineral line there. So working to replace the queen economy at his main base. More Ling's gonna push across the map as well. Has he started his third base yet? I feel like he did.
Yes.
Okay, there it is. It's just turning into an orbital right now, which is why I didn't see it on the production tab. So +1 attack on the way, centrifugal hooks on the way, more drones, lots of drones, and SortOf is going to try and explode forward here. He's got his 4th base just about finished up. He'll have access to that rich Vespine geyser, which will give him access to more gas of the time. And I think SortOf's in a pretty decent position right now.
Yeah, for sure. It seems a lot better than it was in the previous one, right? Still losing 7 workers here, a reasonable amount of those Zerglings as well, but his overall worker count looking pretty sharp right now. His creep spread is going into the right direction as well. Would like to see a little bit more near that 4th base, but you know what? Beggars can't be choosers. And it's going to be a little bit before Koss is really going to be feeling comfortable to push across the map here, I feel like. Although he does have those 2 medevacs right now. It depends on how aggressive he wants to be. Drilling class is on the way, though, so I wonder if he's going to wait for that one and maybe grab a couple of Widowmines for this one as well.
I can see Koss moving out across the map, because it'd be really easy to just boost a couple of medevacs with mines out to meet this army, but you really want to start getting positioning out on the map because you don't want the Zerg player to start controlling the vision and controlling how things maneuver on the map. And a good little wall right here will make this more difficult for SortOf to try and cause chaos. Oh, but it is a big open wall from where the command center used to be. So we'll have to keep an eye on that, but now Koss is going to leap on forward, trying to get on top of this 4th base. Tanks are going to siege up in a really nice location. There are Banelings, not a lot of Zerglings behind, so there isn't any good potential here to push. But now SortOf is going to show up with the Zerglings on the backside, and immediately Koss is going to stim and get out of there while the getting's good. Those tanks are going to have to reposition here, but I think this is going to be a surround that that Koss doesn't want to try and play with.
Okay, needs to stay close to that siege tank. Doesn't want to take the AoE damage from the Banelings. Pretty good one here. Might be able to intercept those medevacts as well. Gets... Ooh, doesn't get one of them. Okay, that was really close though.
Whew. So, SortOf playing a lot more confidently in this game. You can tell, again, like we go back, sorry to sound like a broken record a little bit, but it's such an important concept. Controlling momentum and controlling tempo. It feels like SortOf has a lot more control in this game where, okay, I'm better lined up on how I need to inject and how I need to keep on top of my economy. I'm sending lings across the map when I want to, not when I need to. And it makes it the play style a little bit more smooth for SortOf. Koss is being forced to take a little bit more risky engagements like the one you just saw there. You got about half the damage done onto that hatchery. So the hatchery will continue to be a target for sure, but SortOf has got a lot more pieces to work with, and it shows in that supply count as well, 171 to 170. This is a lot more even keel game. I think SortOf's got to be feeling a lot better.
Yeah, we're also seeing him taking the lead in the upgrades right now. Not only the upgrades, but also just overall his tech, right? Already on the way with the hive tech, sitting at a comfortable moment in time. I mean, the previous game when we saw that happening, getting the hive tech, it already felt like a little bit of an hopeless situation for SortOf, but here he is, he's looking sharp. I believe there was a medevac drop on the left side. Am I going crazy here? Oh, there it is. Yeah, okay.
We didn't miss it just in time, and he is going to be able to pull that back. These are going to get a lot of damage done. They're going to jump right on top of the upgrades here. I don't think he's going to have enough, but once again, opens up another target. And there's a big army engagement here in the center of the map, and Koss doing exactly what he needs to, trying to engage in a bunch of different locations to pull his opponent apart, Kozan.
Yeah, for sure. Those two medevacts, they're so low HP. Are they going to go down before anything happens? Yes, they will. The Spore Crawler intercepts. And Koss is falling apart here right now. Losing those two drops without doing too much damage. And you know what? The main force as well being pushed backwards. Not feeling comfortable enough to push down this ramp with the amount of Zerg, the amount of creep spread that is waiting for him down there.
Well, and I think that we need to talk about the upgrade cycle here for Koss, because it feels like Koss has taken his 2-2 really late, only now getting finished up here. SortOf able to play with 2-2. He's already got +3 armor on the way as well. And these Spore Crawlers have just been clutch for SortOf, trying to defend and deflect a lot of these medevacs. And it's allowing SortOf to be able to focus on the main chunks of this army right here. He does not want to engage into that, though. Those siege tanks go all the way back onto the top of the ramp, and they will lose so much of their power if they try and engage off of creep here. But it's a lot to try and follow. Koss doing everything he possibly can to cause as much chaos as possible.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And we're seeing Vipers as well on the way here right now. I mean, this army composition for Koss, time is ticking, I would say. Those siege tanks are only going to be good for so long. And as soon as those Vipers are coming out, suddenly Blinding Clouds will be one hell of an ability there against the Terran player. And Koss is going to have to figure out what he wants to do against those, right? Does he want to get Liberators, Vikings? Because he's going to need Liberators versus those... or Marauders, of course, versus the Ultralistic as well. Or is he going to go for the Ghost? The Ghost route is also a possibility here, of course. Already more tech labs being produced by Koss, so he is starting to get ready for it. But I don't feel like he's going to hit it as cleanly as he might. So maybe a little bit of an opportunity here. The Planetary as well, going to fall. Going to force Koss to move on forwards here on the right.
And losing that planetary isn't devastating by any stretch of the imagination, but it is going to force Koss to start making some moves here. Both players maxed out. SortOf has an insane bank, 4,000 minerals here. So losing this base isn't a big deal, but Koss needs to make sure that he doesn't overextend. The tank spread on the backside of this is incredibly strong, and he should be able to deal with these units coming down on the high ground, but he's going to need the Marines. Great blinding clouds get on top of a majority of the Marine army, and that's going to delay this as much as possible, and I think the spread of tanks is just going to be a bit too good. Koss is going to be able to hold on here, and he does get that forward fourth base as a result. More units streaming on the way.
Yeah, very nice positioning overall with those Marines as well. On the right side, there were Banelings as well coming in. Maybe sort of overcommitting a little bit too quickly, right? Still had a lot of Banelings in production on the top side of the ramp there. More came in from that angle. Maybe that would have worked out a little bit better. But as you said, yeah, the siege tank spread, the only one blinding cloud really, if I'm not mistaken, being utilized there. Comes down to the Ultralisk gear, I guess. He wants to get those Ultras now in time. Start helping out with this defense. They're about to pop though. That's going to be difficult to fight against with just Marines and siege tanks. Yeah. Circlings on the other side as well, by the way. Yeah.
Yeah, this is the time where ghosts need to start being added into the mix, and he hasn't quite made that transition yet. Does he have a Ghost Academy? No, not at this point. No. So it's going to be a bit of a delay. He's going to show these Ultralists. And I imagine we're going to immediately see a Ghost Academy thrown down, and Koss is going to go, I wish I would have scanned the cavern so I could have gotten this started a lot faster. But continuing to try and reposition, he is going to put more pressure on that forward fourth base. But I think he needs to start looking to the left-hand side of the map. I mean, there's more hatcheries going down, sort of starting to expand to the top side, and making this a really scrappy game for both of our players. I think this is exactly the kind of game we were hoping for.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Yeah, it's kind of interesting as well, getting the building upgrades here for Koss before he gets himself anything to deal really with the Ultralisk right now. Starting up the Marauders, but only 2 barracks with tech labs, Rushy. 2 barracks, that's 2 Marauders at a time. You're gonna need a lot more if you're fighting against a heavy Ultralisk army. Big Baneling connections there as well. Massive surrounds coming from the backside. Nice blinding clouds there being utilized from those siege tanks. Cleaning up the back, and this is going to be a rough one. Oh, big connections once again.
I almost thought that wasn't going to connect, but then all of a sudden those Banelings started pushing forward with the Ultras for cover, and that just obliterated Koss's army. Koss is on the ropes here. We might see our first game 3 of the day, and yeah, that's kind of crazy to think about.
It's looking likely. Yeah, I really was anticipating this one to be the big one, honestly. Later on in the NA bracket, we might get ourselves some pretty crude matchups as well. But honestly, this one is one of the bigger ones I was looking forward to seeing. And these guys are definitely delivering once more. SortOf here coming into this planetary, shutting down another base. Oh, Koss, I mean, he is starting to feel it, man. This is starting to really hurt right now. He's in a tough position. How many orbitals does he have? Yeah, so only 3 orbitals. He's on 56 workers. All right, well, if he loses this battle, that's going to be it.
Oh, and that's a huge engagement. Great blinding cloud going down onto the ramp. Those Ultras are allowed to work. It's not a planetary yet down on the low ground, so all of those workers are exposed, and SortOf able to push forward here and force a game number 3. Well played by both of our opponents. And again, I will repeat it. I will repeat it until I'm blue in the face, because it is important if you're looking to become a better Zerg player in StarCraft 2. Control the tempo. Control momentum. Control tempo. That's what you want to do. And in that case, sort of put on a perfect scenario of why that is important. So it's going to force us into a game number 3, which is very exciting. Thanks everybody for joining us. We've had a large uptick of people joining here on the D stream. My name is Rushy. I'm here with Kozan, my wonderful co-caster, co-teammate, Co-Zan. He's full-time Zan though, not a Kozan. He's a full-time.
I hope so.
So
anyway, we got game number 3 is going to be on Pillars of Gold. Another one of these maps that could go in a bit of a late game situation. It's not the biggest map, of course. A couple of bases, a little bit outliers, right? These corner bases can be rather difficult to defend, considering how the other bases for the opposing team is laid out. You kind of are expanding, as is per usual, on a lot of these StarCraft 2 maps. But I feel like this one is in particular. You're expanding towards each other, towards those corners, and suddenly those distances feel very, very short. And yeah, we're gonna have to wait and see how this is gonna work out. Let's see. Admin says we need to wait for the A stream. Interesting. Interesting.
Yeah, that is rather interesting, since it is still our normal game. Mainstream is going to join. Well, isn't that just a treat?
Well then, they won't let us have anything for ourselves. The one good series. In they come. No, all right. That's gonna be interesting, honestly. The Mainstream joining us for this one. I mean, it has been a pretty darn good series so far, so I can get why they would want a piece of this action right now. Also, they probably will have a little bit of downtime, seeing how, you know what, probably the other games may have already ended.
Yeah, I would believe it, since it is game number 3 here. We've seen a lot of 2-0s today, so not uncommon. But thanks so much, everybody, for hanging out with us. Of course, all of the real OGs know to stay with twitch.tv/ESL for this amazing game number 3. So we're just going to be patient as we get everything set up and ready to go. We can give you a brief teaser of what's to come, because as we get ready to finish up the last little bit of Group D here, we have more to come in the way of a North American qualifier. Okay.
What?
So we. Okay. I'm not going to take an opinion on that. I'm just going to roll with it here. Of course, we've got some more outstanding coverage to get to with what's coming up in North America. It's a lot of uncertainty still, Kozan. We've got both Group A and B that have 5 players still competing for 4 slots. I don't know if you know this, but you can't put 5 into 4. It just doesn't work.
Huh. Yeah, it would be nice. It would be nice. I'm sure there's some mathematician being like, oh, hold up there, grabbing his calculator, being like, well, if you putting his glasses up to his nose. But yeah, I think you're right. I think that's a smart statement overall. Also, one thing I'd like to notice, there is a Uthermal, a particular little Dutchman there, managed to move on through, managed to secure that 4th place, even though he is injured. I am very happy about that one. Mark moving on through. Great job there. Exciting stuff overall for us Dutchies, and nice to see the rest of the team as well. You know what? Overall, it's nice to have those 4 Terrans in total moving on as well with the rest of the group. Looks like it's pretty darn close to have everything together in the overall race balance, right?
Yeah, it's definitely kind of shaking out the way that we thought it would. Everybody can they can lower their torches, they can put down their pitchforks. We've got ourselves about as much balance as we could possibly see, because if we're being real honest, looking at Group A, B, and C, I think the Terrans that made it through were the ones that we expected to make it through in Clem. And then, of course, Group D had an oversaturation of very top-tier Terran players. So 6, 6, and 4, again, can't hardly ask for a lot more than that.
Yep, for sure. All right, I think we're about to get things started here. And we're just going to wait for that for a little bit longer. Guys, thank you all so much for joining us. I hope you're having a good time with the overall StarCraft 2 content. Rushy and I very much enjoy everybody being here. Even Lizard Teats. Look at him, Lizard Teats. What's up, my man? Oh, he's so cool. He's always there watching my streams. Great guy. Always have a lot of fun with him. Anyway, what's up? Thank you so much for joining us. We are the D stream. That is D stream, of course, that to be watching. We're on the ESL channel itself. StarCraft is back on the main ESL channel. You're welcome. And all thanks to us. And thanks to all the great people at ESL, of course. DreamHack all working out for us. And awesome to see. Awesome to see that we're, you know what, we're doing an all right job, I would say, Rashi. We're doing okay, you know? Oh, of course, there's some stuff that could always be a little bit better. But ultimately, given the cards that we're dealt sometimes, you know, I think we are kicking it out of the park, ultimately.
Yeah, you know, I'm feeling really good. Had that slight moment of internet scare, but fortunately things seem to be on the mend again, and I'm definitely grateful for the opportunity. I think this is a lot of fun, very, very cool situation here. We do have an anxious lobby as we are getting everything ready to go and setting up for the game. So
yeah,
Nigel making the jokes, and our players are ready. I mean, they were kind of hot and yep, ready to fire. So I know Koss has got to be feeling the burn here. He's just lost game number 2. He wants to make sure he doesn't skid and lose both. But there we can hear the countdown going. We are going to get in. This is our 3rd game in a best of 3. So both players sitting at a 1-1 score. And we're going to be jumping on into Pillars of Gold. I like to see mutas on this map here, Kozan, but it's been a lot of Ling Bane so far. You think SortOf is just going to stay with it?
Yeah, I think the Mutalisk, I've not seen SortOf go with Mutalisk all that often. I think he just prefers the ground style overall. He likes to grab those spellcasters with his ground forces and then just overwhelm his opponent that way in the later parts.
Alrighty. We are set and ready to go. Thanks so much for being patient, guys. We appreciate you hanging on with us. This is going to be a great way to end out the Europe portion of our main event group stage. Spawning in the top right-hand corner, running with Uncle Mo. That momentum. Playing for Cosmos Esports, our Blue Zerg. Make some noise for SortOf.
In the bottom left side, his opponent for today. They've been going at each other quite heavily. It's a 1-1. Will he be able to take it here? And a little bit of extra dough in the pocket. He is Team Starcom's Red Terran, the Ukrainian. He is Koss. Did we mention, by the way, SortOf, the amount of time this man has spent in Korea just practicing? He's an absolute beast when it comes to practice. He is fully committed to this, and he wants to make this work. Ultimately, though, he's never quite been able, as far as I'm aware, really been able to take a massive run, 2nd or 1st place somewhere in some tournaments. And you know what it is? Yeah, I kind of feel for this man sometimes. You know, he's so incredibly good. And then, you know, sometimes he just barely falls short a little bit, you know? And I guess same things can be said for Koss.
Yeah, I definitely feel like both of these players, specifically, if we talk about this game, yeah, they've been putting in the time. They're showing up at tournaments. They're making waves. They're doing what they need to. But I think it is definitely something to be said that the silver lining for a lot of our players, being forced to be stuck indoors, not really able to go anywhere or do anything, is that they've been investing so much into their practice time. And we've seen a lot of players resurface that suddenly found themselves with a lot of extra spare time to be able to play StarCraft, learn, grow, improve. And it's done wonders for the scene. And of course, big entities like ESL or DreamHack being able to pick up more opportunities to host events and put forth big prize pools for these players to take all that practice time and make themselves better has been, again, another wonderful silver lining to what 2020 has kind of brought us on a worldwide spectrum. So yeah, a lot of players making the most of it.
It's a lot of what Apollo was really trying to do, right? Just grassroots overall, making StarCraft 2 something that can grow into the future and keep getting more and more overall value in the esports market, right? And he's showing it not only by making it once again very, very region-based in a sense, right? Allowing people to continuously support their own market and let people kind of grow within their own market, try to get the competition going there, allow people to actually gain some money here and there from those places where, like, for example, Australia and stuff like that, right? Not the biggest amount of esports StarCraft 2 nerds right there, but overall, you know what? It's a start, and we're seeing that as well. Oh my god, that nade! Oh, it doesn't get the drone. Jeez Louise, that was close. Anyway, but yeah, I love to see it. Honestly, letting really taking care of the scene here and trying to make it as great as it can be. And I am absolutely in love with all the decisions that they're making, the transparency that they're giving us, and the production that has been given us as well. I mean, this is it's just awesome to have DreamHack going strong like this with ESL as well. Awesome stuff. Anyway, what's happening in this game so far? It's a little bit of a juggle there for that third base, as you said as well. That's one of your pesky things on the ladder whenever you engage it with, right?
So I feel like, especially with this one, the options are a lot better, because you can get out to this third base and there's no place for Terran to park something that you can't get at. Queens can get up in here. So this one is not so bad. Obviously, there's always the inconvenience of, oh, it's not the most optimal, or it's not the closest base, making that a little bit trickier. But I think this one is a lot better position and sort of is making the most of this scenario. Looks like he's going to go into exactly the same sort of plan here, getting those evolution chambers down, getting that Baneling nest. I think sort of is going, okay, I was able to make it happen in game number 2. I know what I need to get done. Now I just need to do it.
Yeah. It's kind of interesting, right? How many queens does he go for? 5. He's still making another one, so 6. He's getting the spore crawlers. We're seeing a lot of the Zergs recently going for a very quick spire, right? Sort of really, I don't think I've very much often seen him go for the spire. Maybe against battle cruisers, but that kind of feels like he might be one of his weaker things right now, right? If there were battle cruisers to show up, sometimes having the double evo chamber upgrading and going more heavily on the links, that could be definitely problematic. Oh my god, that's still in range.
Yeah.
Oh, you're kidding me.
That's a bit unfortunate there. I loved that
SortOf green reduction.
SortOf was being really cautious with these banelings on the left-hand side, or on the right-hand side on the top of the ramp, trying to bait those Hellions to drive up, but Koss wasn't willing to invest that much of an engagement, so he's been playing safe, just continuing to pick off creep tumors. Lairtech also coming down as well, and it's a very going to be a very quick timing for this stim moving across the map. So getting into a position here where I think he can start being more aggressive. But once again, I mean, SortOf is continuing to work with this Ling Bane composition army, and that's going to be very good. I'm surprised that neither one of these players has really blinked on the other one to try and hard counter the other. But sometimes you just really like playstyles, and what a great engagement there, picking up all of those Hellions. SortOf has got to feel really good about that.
Yeah, that was a great positional play there by SortOf, just zoning out those Hellions from the retreat with those Banings. Absolutely lovely stuff. And let's take a look as well at the overall economy right now. I mean, Cass, he's taking up there, right? He's got a massive SCV count right now, 51 right now as well. I guess just as I'm saying this, SortOf also kind of shoots up, but it's not too far apart here. Only just barely now the 4th base about to be finishing up. Also a macro hatchery, so SortOf. I don't think he's as far ahead economically speaking as he was in the previous game. I want to say.
Well, if you look at the income advantage graph, it's kind of an interesting tale, because it's lots of rapid back and forth between both of them. SortOf definitely does not have the economic lead he did in game number 2, and he was able to get that from some really good tactical choices. And Koss is playing a little more safe this game. He's making some really good decisions, and this is actually going to be a pretty hefty drop here. I mean, I think he's going to try and engage in multiple locations. There is a little bit of a Zerg-Ling Baneling action that's going to be coming on the left-hand side of the map, but I think Koss is ready for it. I don't know. I don't know how to feel about this, Kozan. I think both players are just kind of reading each other as best as they possibly can.
Yeah, I think he's just potentially there. I think he's expecting a move out from Cass here, and he just wants to be ready, right, in case that actually happens. And then he can try to go for the counter-attack here on that third base. There's no bunker this time there, so it's a little bit more exposed. Those siege tanks as well. I mean, there are 3 of them. But ultimately, Cass not really committing, and so sort of gonna keep those circlings and banelings there close to heart. There's already hive tech on the way as well, and this is, again, right, the previous time we saw this, really working out for SortOf. And yeah, he's looking good right now. Okay, he is gonna go in. No, okay, he isn't gonna go in. Make up your mind, SortOf.
So I love this transition to hive tech here by SortOf. I think SortOf has recognized that for the most part, Cass is kind of reading everything that he's got in the playbook. They're both, and they're both doing it both directions. I think Cass has got SortOf figured out. SortOf has Cass figured out. Well, this is going to be actually a really great surround here. There should be enough medevacs to pick up a majority of this, so that won't be very harsh for Cass. But SortOf is recognizing that he's not going to be able to just make as much damage happen as he did in game number 2 with Ling Bane alone. So working on getting that hive tech up, he is going to try and move into that Ultralisk cavern. No Spire as far as I've seen. Getting that 5th base down as well. Also very interesting, notice he never took his second gas in the main. I wonder if that... Well, and he didn't take a second gas here either. So he's only working on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 gases. That's really interesting. He's gonna have to take those if he wants to get ultras like he is.
Yeah, also the Vipers, of course, those upgrades, also a lot of gas involved there. What I have seen recently from DRG actually is he went into the Ultralisk to really force out a response against those Ultralisk, right? Forcing his Terran opponent to go, wait, hold up, actually, there's a little bit of a fight here. Circlings as well into that 3rd base right now, completely exposed it looks like. Oh my dear lord. Okay, let me take a look at the 3rd base there. Oh, getting close to those SCVs.
Okay, yeah, that was a good pickup of SCVs there. 8. Oh, and the friendly fire. Cleaning up the remainder of it. Look how much he's getting out of it. He went from 12 to 21. Meanwhile, there's a drop happening here on the 3rd base. It was mostly mitigated here, only losing 3 workers, but a second drop happening as well. Cass, I think that's where Cass's attention was being pulled, was trying to pay attention to those drops. And for the most part, SortOf has made the most of it. Cass is the one that ends up losing the most on the backside. And it shows in that units lost tab. He's already down 1,000 minerals and a little bit of gas.
Yeah, for sure. That was a great move there by SortOf. Kaz still trying to make some plays there with the drop on the top side, now moving in as well. But ultimately, we're seeing a lack of a response to this Ultralisk, right? It's just not here. Where are the Marauders? Where's the Liberators? Where's the Ghost? Anything. You need something here. You can't just stick on Siege Tank Marines versus Ultralisk. And you know what? He might not even need them.
Great blinding clouds on top of all of those tanks. They're all clumped up, and all of those Zerglings are just going to swarm on top of everything. Cass is running out of steam, but to your point about preparing for the next step, I mean, Cass hasn't even had a chance to see this yet. He doesn't know about the Ultralisk Cavern. There is no tell at this point. So now it's just over.